Welcome to Central News, I'm Hilary Entwistle. In today's news, the Red Cross Appeal starts next week and this year's theme is Icy Red. The annual appeal helps to raise funds for the international disaster relief work and the national community initiatives like Meals on Wheels. Icy Red is part of a school challenge where students can get red hot glasses and prizes have been kindly donated by Kathmandu. Sue O'Donnell, the Waikato area manager, says the annual Red Cross Appeals funds go a long way towards the work they do.
The Red Cross Appeal is raising awareness and money so that Red Cross can continue to support the vulnerable within New Zealand and overseas. Our focus overseas is for disasters, both natural and war-torn areas. We send delegates overseas, and obviously that costs money. Within New Zealand, it's assisting improving the lives of vulnerable people, that local people within our community, refugees that are arriving into the country. We have 40 Afghanistan refugees arriving in Hamilton within the next few weeks. They're currently in Auckland, which is a very exciting time for New Zealand Red Cross.
An upcoming banquet event in the Waikato will help see the finish of Phase 2 of the Gallagher Family Hospice Wellness Centre. The event, already sold out, will be hosted by New Zealand film and television actor Mark Ferguson, with guest speakers fashion guru and editor Paula Ryan and world-class adventurer and speaker Jamie Fitzgerald. Both will share their bucket lists and secrets for a fulfilling life. CEO Craig Tamblyn says the event will help immensely towards finishing the Wellness Centre.
The big event for Hospice Waikato for this year is the banquet, bucket list banquet, being held on Thursday the 9th of May at the Hefe Room in Claudelands, and it's really, really exciting. It's just, the support has just been amazing.
Rumours people are admitted to Tauranga Hospital suffering kidney damage as a result of legal highs can't be linked, say Bay of Plenty health officials. Media reports 5 people from the Bay of Plenty, Canterbury and Nelson have been admitted to hospital with kidney failure after smoking synthetic cannabis drugs. Bay of Plenty District Health Board Chief Executive Phil Camish says the hospital knows how many people are admitted suffering kidney failure, but they do not know whether it is a result of smoking legal highs. Phil says people can suffer numerous reactions after smoking synthetic cannabis. Nationwide emergency department doctors are treating more people with convulsions, vomiting, paranoia and psychosis after having taken the legal highs. Now for our region's weather for the weekend. Hamilton, your Saturday, rain developing by midday with light winds. A high of 20 and an overnight low of 10. Tauranga, the rain develops in the afternoon with a northeasterly and an expected high of 20 and an overnight low of 14. Sunday's rain for you, Hamilton, will ease throughout the day and there is a strengthening westerly. Your expected high is 20 and an overnight low of 9. Tauranga, your Sunday, the rain eases to the odd shower with a strengthening westerly too. Your expected high is 19 and an overnight low of 12. Just ahead, National Alpaca Day. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. Alpaca farms throughout the country are opening their gates to the public to promote all things alpaca. I caught up with some local alpaca owners to find out what the day is all about.
Alpaca Day is a national event organised by the New Zealand Alpaca Association, and it's an annual event. So we just want to promote alpacas and get them out into the public for people to see.
When is the day celebrated and why?
It's an annual event, first Sunday in May every year, and this year it's the 5th of May. And we celebrate it just to bring awareness and to get more people to breed alpacas and produce more alpacas for their wool.
Alpaca farms around the country opening their farms for the day. What will your guys be doing?
We have a wide range of activities planned for the day. So we'll have all our alpacas on display for everyone to get amongst them and feed them, and you can lead halter-trained alpacas, and we'll have little babies there for people to see, and just heaps of information about alpacas.
What are alpacas farmed for?
Well, they've been farmed for thousands of years in South America for their wool, which is super fine and commands a really high price in the international market. So in New Zealand we're breeding them just for their wool, and we want to get a commercial market going, so we need more people to get on board and start breeding them.
Are they sustainable as they're only shorn once a year?
Yeah, well the breeding techniques we're using now, including embryo transfer, which has been developed in Australia, they're producing really large fleeces, up to 5 kilos. So we are trying to get in amongst the merino industry.
So where is your farm base for those wanting to check out an alpaca?
Well, we're really close to Hamilton City, just 5 minutes north of Rototuna. Our address is 297 Horsham Downs Road, and yeah, it'll be a great day out.
Can you tell us about the alpaca industry in New Zealand?
Well, the alpacas came to New Zealand in the late 1980s. So they've been around for a really long time. Initially it was just a bloodstock industry, so people were making money from selling the animals. But these days it's more focused on the fibre, so it's a lot more stable and the prices are lower, but they're still very viable as a commercial animal.
How many alpacas are there in New Zealand?
There's approximately 25,000, and that's increasing every year. And there's lots of exports over to European countries because our breeding is so world-renowned.
Why is our country so renowned for our breeding?
Just the quality of our animals are so high, and also the way that we farm in New Zealand. Coming from the sheep industry, it's moved into the alpaca industry, and people just have a good name.
What are the different types of alpaca?
Well, there's 2 breeds. There's the Wakaya, which we have on our farm, and these animals look similar to a sheep when they're in full fleece. And then there's the Surrey breed, which has long dreadlocks, which is a lot rarer, and that's about 10% of the population.
How do you knit a jumper out of dreadlocks?
That type of fleece is more used for fabric, so they weave it, and it's been exported into Europe, and they use it a lot in suits, really high-end suits.
So what is the usual nature of an alpaca?
Well, there are various natures and temperaments, like people sort of. The more time you spend with them, the friendlier they get and the easier they are to handle.
What work is required to look after these animals?
They're pretty easy care compared to other livestock. Shearing is the biggest thing, that's just before the summer. And we need to clip their toenails and just make sure that they've got enough feed, and yeah, they're pretty straightforward to look after.
So what are some of those finer details of the farming?
Well, alpacas need to be in pairs because they don't like being by themselves and they'll get really stressed out. So you need to have at least 2 alpacas together. Most people in New Zealand only have half a dozen alpacas, but there are a few farms that have 300 or 400 now. So yeah, we're trying to get more numbers. And can get about 4 alpacas to an acre. So it's quite a good stocking rate, similar to sheep. And we're seeing a lot of alpacas at AMP shows now, and the AMP shows really like us there because we bring in a lot of public for them, and yeah.
Now the shows are a big part of that industry. What are they like?
The shows are really popular in New Zealand. It's a good way to advertise your farm and also compete against other farms and see who's got the better breeding strategies. Most AMP shows around the country will have alpacas these days, and some of them have 200 alpacas at a time. So they're really popular.
And what kind of appetite do they have? What do they eat?
They're pretty happy with just grass and hay, really. But we feed them dry feed, like lucerne chaff, if we're training them or taking them to shows. But they're pretty easy to look after.
What kind of fencing do you have to have?
Well, alpacas are pretty good with fencing. They're not escape artists like sheep. So most fencing is pretty good. You can just have post and railing or just 7 wires, just general fencing. Most fencing is adequate. You don't need to have really high fencing. A lot of people think that, but you don't need it.
To find out about a farm near you, visit alpaca.org.nz. Coming up next, local government reform with Mayor Julie Hardacre. Welcome back. We continue with our local government reform special tonight, where we discuss the responsibility of a council and the new purpose statement with Mayor Julie Hardacre.
The inflation and population rate of an area will limit expenditure growth with the new reform. So how will this affect the Hamilton City Council?
Population growth. Our city's growing fast. and we're a youthful city as well. 50% of our population is under the age of 30. We're a city of families. So when you look across the Waikato, some areas in the Waikato are experiencing population decline and also a growth in the older age population. Our city's different. We're actually growing in the young area and our population continues to grow. So as that happens and more people come into our city, that drives our costs and our cost to deliver to the city. So we're very interested in watching the population demographics and the changes in population. The Waikato is also interested in this because, as I said, we've got areas who are in decline, and that's a whole of Waikato issue. So it's a very important issue. Inflation, inflation's reasonably low at the moment, but one of the things that drives our costs are the things I talked about before, bitumen, concrete, all those things, which often don't get caught up into the inflation index. People are looking at CPI, which is about vegetables and things that we don't actually buy. It's a different equation that you look at in local government, and I'm not so sure that's widely understood or known.
Do you think it's the responsibility of your council to set NZEA pass rates?
No.
What about greenhouse gases?
The council has a vested interest in ensuring that the environment in which the people who live in this city and do business in this city is the right environment, a healthy environment and an environment that is conducive to those things happening. So should we measure greenhouse gases? Yes, I think we should. Why? Because that tells us that the services we're delivering, which are our core purpose, we're delivering them in an environmentally sound and sustainable way.
And what about child abuse?
No.
So the new policy statement is providing good quality local infrastructure, public services and regulatory functions at the least possible cost to households and businesses. Will this make a difference to how you actually govern?
Our council is probably 60 to 80% of our budget's all about infrastructure and core purpose, really. So that is the regulatory function side, which is all the planning and building and all of that stuff, food safety, etc., and also all the infrastructure stuff. So we do all of that, and a big part of what we do is that. But as I said before, what we're going to be doing this calendar year is working through all of the services we provide and seeing where they might marry up on that purpose. Now, the Act also goes on to define infrastructure, and that includes community infrastructure, and that community infrastructure includes museums, swimming pools, theatres, libraries. So they are actually in the mix as things that council should deliver. But then there's, a box of stuff that we're really not sure about. At the moment, we think they do comply with the purpose, but we're going to do a good analysis on those.
Do you think councils should have caps on their spending enforced by central government?
Well, again, this gets back to what kind of council you've got, what kind of area you've got. So, for example, if the government put caps on, uniform cap across New Zealand, for a growth council like us, that could be quite difficult. It might work for a declining council or for a city that's not growing, for example, Dunedin. That's a city that has a very different demographic and a very different growth projection to our city. So I think a universal cap absolutely won't work because it does not take account of growth, where economic activity is and what the state of the play is for the future of your space. But we have imposed our own caps because we're a fiscally responsible council. We get these issues. We understand what the numbers mean for people. So we've imposed our own caps, and we are keeping to those, and they are very much part of our budget and plan.
Should councillors and council staff be held more accountable if a decision made by the council actually results in public loss?
Well, councillors are held accountable. You can turf us out at the next election. That's what democracy's about. If you don't like the decisions of the past, then you elect not to have those people represent you again. And that is the best form of accountability. You lose your job. Staff are accountable. They're accountable to the council, which is the governance body. And it is very important that those around the governance table do hold the organisation accountable to deliver the decisions that the councils make. And again, that is something that's very important to me because at the end of the day, the buck stops with those who are elected.
Under the new reform, councils will be required to disclose in their annual reports information on the number of staff employed. How will this affect the Hamilton City Council, and do you think you will be asked to make staff changes?
No. So we're driving $15 million worth of efficiencies through the organisation. That has resulted in some redundancies. To me, it's actually not about the numbers, it's about what's the outcome, what's the efficient delivery of outcome for the budget. And we've been very, very clear in our plans. This is the budget. Don't ever come to us and ask for more money or going outside the budget. The budget is the budget, and we've been sticking to that, and we've done a very good job of that. So, no, we're not concerned at all about the staff numbers and the reporting on that, and in fact I think that's a very good idea. People ask these questions all the time, and that information should be available to the public and easily accessible.
We continue next week with the local government reform special with our local mayors. Just ahead, the Tauranga Women's Refuge. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. The Glen Inquiry, otherwise known as the People's Inquiry into Child Abuse in New Zealand, is recommending that the correlation between domestic violence and child abuse be recognised more by government departments. I spoke with Angela from the Tauranga Women's Refuge to see how strong the link is.
Well, I guess what we call domestic violence is exactly the same as child abuse. It is defined under the Domestic Violence Act as being child abuse. The witnessing of domestic violence is child abuse. So we don't make a strong distinction between the two. Nevertheless, there are a couple of other things that apply with abuse of children. So, for example, the neglect may not necessarily be a form of domestic violence. However, they are very similar terms.
Do you think that it needs to be acknowledged more that there is that strong correlation?
I think that naming abuse is always useful and always powerful. Where child abuse is a form of abuse under the Domestic Violence Act, as I said, but where child abuse is more pervasive is around the poverty issues, around the neglect of children, and naming that is going to be a much more powerful tool to use in our arsenal.
We already know that it is hard leaving an abusive partner. How much more is that change when children are involved?
Well, it adds that complicating factor. Take abuse away when you're looking at leaving a relationship. It's hard enough. Add in abuse, and it adds a whole other layer of all sorts of emotional and physical experiences that this person may have. Then add children to that and the fear around what will happen with those children, and also, how will I support them? What will I do? And will I be able to cope with my children? Often women will say, the violence only applies to me. He's violent towards me, but he's a good dad. And it's helping women understand that actually when violence is used against mum, the children are listening. The children do get to experience what is happening in the house. And so you can't really be a good dad and use violence. The two don't work together. So really, when there are children, you add a whole additional layer of social needs and issues for that mum.
What is some advice to help protect children when leaving an abusive partner?
Well, what we always say is safety plan. So there are two kinds of things that need to happen. One is, if you're in danger, get out, run, go. And that's the advice we always give. Take your children with you, because leaving them in that situation is not, it's not okay for them to be staying there with a violent partner. So run, make noise, get help. But if you are planning to leave and you're thinking about this, and there's been an incident or a number of incidents, and you're actually working through those processes, we recommend that you do some safety planning for yourself. Get together a bag of things that you think you'll need. So we have those on our website and also the national website. It's just around papers, it's around medication for the children, some things that the children have bonded to, like particular soft toys, their homework, you know, those things that help a child feel more settled in a different environment.
Do some women choose to stay with an abusive partner because they feel that they can better protect their children?
Yes, I believe they do. I guess when you're living in a situation where the violence is being as best you can as a parent managing that perpetrator, so you get to be hyper vigilant, you get to work out when his triggers are coming, you get to know when he walks in the door or how he behaves, or, you know, say if there's drinking in the evening or something. You get to manage that stuff, and you do know that, okay, I know what might be coming, so managing it in that way as best you can to protect yourself and your children. So women actually evaluate that, because what we do know, and it can't be denied, is when a woman and children leave a violent relationship, the violence often escalates. So at that point, it's where she's put a line in the sand and said, no more, I can't do this anymore, no more. And that loss of control from the relationship often sends the partner into a spiral of rage. He makes some really bad choices about, I'm going to stalk them, I'm going to hunt them down, I'm going to take them through the court system, everything, because how dare this happen? And also, particularly if there's a protection order, you know, I actually can't do any of these things. I am, at this point, unable to do anything. And that sense of loss of control over something he believes his family should have, he should have over his family, I should say, can actually really make it dangerous. So some women really have to evaluate that. Is it worth staying here and managing what I can and surviving this, or do I really need to go? So it's a horrible decision, and we encourage women, whatever works for them, however they want to manage their lives, that's what we encourage them.
If you or anyone you know is experiencing any type of domestic abuse, we urge you to call the crisis phone on 0800 2 Refuge or 541 1911. All calls are completely confidential. For more information on the Glen Inquiry, visit gleninquiry.org.nz. That is the news for today and this week. We really want you to be involved, so like us on Facebook and let us know your views. If you have news including your own video and photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. I'll be back next week with more guests from in and around the regions. I'm Hilary Twistle. Have a lovely evening and a fantastic weekend.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.